So, Carmen Montiel, welcome to the show. You're running for Congress, and you'd like to replace Sheila Jackson Lee. And I got to tell you, I'm kind of amazed by Sheila Jackson Lee because I don't see how a woman who took over her husband's office has been able to amass so many millions of dollars, making $175,000 a year. I mean, I admit that's walking around money, but nonetheless, I just don't see how it can happen, Carmen Montiel.
Well, that's one of the many questions that we have to ask about the people that are in Congress and the Senate. How people that have been there for years, like, for example, Joe Biden, holding office jobs that they're a salary.
Almost 50 years in Congress. He averaged $90,000 a year over those 50 years.
Exactly.
And he's a multimillionaire.
And then you're a multimillionaire, and that have to stop because it is one of the many things that are ruining our country. And, I come from Venezuela. I always say I come from the future because whatever is happening in the United States already happening in Venezuela.
That was kind of chilling.
It is.
I come from the future.
I come from the future.
Which is Venezuela.
It's the same manual. They repeat it step by step. And corruption and bureaucracy.
Same recipe, same playbook. And we have seen it a dozen times over the last 100 years.
Exactly. And it repeats, like right now, the problem we have at the border, this is Venezuela 1970s. In the 70s in Venezuela, we got an invasion of migrants coming from all neighboring countries and from the Caribbean islands. And the government was just taking a blind eye on the whole situation. What happened? The children of those migrants, because at the time, they've been progressing. Like now here in the United States, like New York, now the illegals can vote. Back in the 70s, they were not as fast or progressive. But what happened is the children of those migrants that were born in Venezuela, eligible to vote in 1998, voted for Hugo Chavez. So the whole plan of an invasion of migrants is to change the identity of a country. That's it. And they know they can change the identity of a country because patriots like us will dilute compared to this.
I mean, if you go back 20 years, Venezuela was the most prosperous country in the entire South American area.
It was.
And then communism took over. And what happened to Venezuela?
Well, within
not everybody knows this story.
Nobody knows. Within 5 years, we started to see a drastic change. I'm going to tell you history because history is important. They want to destroy and take away history of our books because that way they can lie to people. The last dictator before Hugo Chavez we have, who was a right-wing dictator, he was a military man, Pérez Jiménez. When he was overthrown in 1958, the population of Venezuela was the majority, over 60% of the population were middle class, and the rest divided equally between rich and poor.
And I should point out, guys, this is very important because a strong middle class is what makes a country great.
Yes. So with 40 years of a leftist democracy, because the two-party system, the world socialist parties, the middle class started to go down. Nowadays, Venezuela, 94% of the population are poor. In a country that still is rich on the ground.
We're talking poor like having trouble putting food on the table poor.
Yeah, looking for food in the trash cans. That type of poor. And it's a reality. And there are lots and lots of videos about this.
See, here in America, somebody once asked the question, how come your poor are so fat? And why do they have so many flat screen TVs?
Exactly.
It ain't that way in Venezuela.
Well, the poor in Venezuela were like that in the 80s and 90s. See, it's the same thing. It's going to get to a point that the poor in this country, if we keep on going down this path, Doc, the poor in this country are going to be looking for food in the trash can. That's what I say. I come from the future because I can tell you how this will end. But, or could, I like to say better, could end, because we are not going to allow for this to happen. At least
I pray
me,
to
myself,
God. I pray to God.
this
that
is
we
my
don't let
fight.
this happen.
You know, because I always say I lost a country. I refuse to lose another one. And if we lose this country, this is it. This is checkmate, Doc.
Well, yeah, because where else are you going to go?
Well, you don't see votes
The Republic,
going from here to Cuba and
the
Venezuela.
Republic of Texas, maybe.
Well, probably, but the thing is, we're going to be overflowed. Look, as it is, already we're getting people from all over the United States coming to Texas. And one of my problems is, that, well, welcome, but remember to leave your voting habits over there.
Your leftist voting habits, yeah, leave
Over
those
there.
where you came from, because we don't want to turn Texas into the same hellhole
Exactly.
that you just got
Understand
out
why
of.
Texas works the way it is. And look, they have taken our cities, and that's a major problem. And that's what happened in Virginia. Now they have a Republican governor, but the local governments are doing whatever they want. And that's exactly what is happening in Houston, is happening in Dallas, it happened in San Antonio, Austin. They have taken our city. So the governor says something, and the local governments say, oh, no, we're going to do whatever we want, because they're tyrants.
That's a problem we have here. We're talking with Carmen Montiel, for those that have just joined us. She is running for Congress. Sheila Jackson Lee. I love Sheila Jackson Lee, and I love her enough that I would like to help her retire early, as soon as possible. Tomorrow would be good. And so we have her retirement plan right here. This is the Sheila Jackson Lee retirement plan, and that is Carmen Montiel. So it's really important that you guys help her. I want to get your website out there. What is your website?
CarmenForCongress.com.
Is that FOR for Congress?
FOR. CarmenForCongress, FOR.com. Please visit our site, donate. That's very important. Whatever you can. It doesn't matter.
Now, if you're watching on YouTube, the link is right there.
Please.
It's right there. Click on that link. It's super expensive. And because Congress affects all of you, that's you, Julie, up in New York, and you in Massachusetts, Margot, Congress affects all of you.
Yes.
So you want to make sure we get the best people in there. So I hope you're going to like and share this video. Carmen Montiel, how long have you lived in Texas now?
31 years this year.
31 years.
Yeah, and 34 in United States. I came to college, and I stayed because my father, he was a visionary, and back then he made a big effort into having his children to come to United States to study and to stay, because he was a visionary. He saw
where Venezuela was headed.
We were heading. And in the 80s, which was the time we were booming, my dad was like, it's over. You guys need to go, stay in the United States. And we're like, what is he talking? You know, Venezuela was booming. We're young.
Everything's great.
We're having the time of our lives. And then we understood. And when I started to see the signs here, how bureaucracy started growing, you know, and corruption, and I started to understand my father, and to see how he saw what it was coming. What he never imagined was that United States was going to be where we are today. And I'm glad he's not seeing that.
Well, it's sad what has happened here. You were also a beauty queen in Venezuela back in the day.
Yes, exactly, in the 80s.
It's still working, by the way. You still look beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, I was Miss Venezuela 1984, Miss South America of the same year, second runner-up in Miss Universe pageant, same year, 1984.
Well, I'm honored, but I wanted to point that out. But nonetheless, that's not why she's here. She's here because I support you. Now, I have people on here that I don't necessarily support, but I support you because you understand where we are going and what must be done to solve the problem. And I hate to tell you this, guys, but Sheila Jackson Lee is the problem. And people like her are the problem. And it's just very, very sad that we have to deal with that, even here in this great state of Texas. So I'm imploring you to do what you can financially to help Carmen Montiel win this seat from Sheila Jackson Lee.
Or sign up to volunteer, because we also need volunteers.
Well, how can they volunteer? Tell us what you have available.
Block walkers. because nowadays,
Okay, Julie, come to Texas and do some block walking. No.
help us, because New York's already done. Like Don Jr. said this weekend, the Republic of New York. We need
The People's Republic of New York.
We need
the People's Democratic Republic of New York.
Sadly, I will not go to New York. I used to love to go visit New York. At this time, I'm not interested at all.
Two of my best friends, Christina Rivera with Life Unscripted radio. I was on her show. She was on my show. She said, that's it. We thought we would live in New York forever, but we finally had to leave. We couldn't stand it anymore.
Many people is leaving.
Yeah.
And the other thing, we need people on the phones. So we need working bees that volunteer to help our campaign. And we can
could
do
someone
this.
out of state make some phone calls for you?
Of course.
So how would they get in contact with you to make that happen?
They need to go to my webpage and sign up for volunteering, and then my team will contact them and they will set them up.
Get them a script and some phone numbers
and phone numbers and everything. Get it on the system.
There you go.
Be in Houston or on the state of Texas to do that. Because listen, Doc, this is completely feasible. Once, because she is not liked at all. And
her staff turnover is huge because she's such a nasty person. She's just nasty to her people.
Oh yeah, she have a great turn around.
Yeah, it's a revolving door in her office. She's constantly having to restaff.
But let me tell you,
people can't stand it.
The district changed, because when the lines changed, so a big chunk of what it used to be District 2, which is Republican, it now belongs to District 18. Then now 50% of the district is Latino, 35% is Black, and then it's around 15% to 17% white, and the rest is Asian. So the Latinos, we are conservative at heart. Latinos, we are.
Most of them are natural conservatives, and they're starting to figure out that the party of planned infanticide is not the party they want to align with.
No, but I'm going to tell you, and I believe I told you this last time, it's a problem of symbol and semantic. We come to this country, Republican Party is red. Red is the color worldwide for communism. That was not our color.
That was no accident. We can thank ABC TV and CNN.
They did that on purpose
for assigning red to the Republicans and blue to the Democrats.
And the Republicans did nothing about it. So that's the first thing. Oh, that's red. That's not our party.
That's because Republicans have been relatively feckless in the past, and some of them still are today. But we're going to have to take that fight back. We're going to have to stand up for liberty.
People like you and me and so many other. Then the semantics.
And I should mention, you guys, when we're talking about fighting, I think the last time I was with Carmen, Joe Biden was coming to town, and so we went down to one of his events. It was either him or Bernie Sanders. I don't remember.
No, it was Bernie, and we were there with our
so we were there. Me and Carmen and some of our closest friends.
It was Bernie. So we do go and fight, because let me tell you, being silent is not going to help us.
No,
they've been screaming, and we have been silenced, and this is what it got so far. And when you're silent, you're an accomplice.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right.
We cannot be silent anymore.
The time to be polite. It's well past. Now we are fighting for our lives, my friends, and you better decide which side you're on and then get on it.
And we need to fight. Then about the semantics, people come from our countries looking for democracy, so they think the Democratic Party is theirs, and then add to that the lies, and now they're figuring out that they lied to them. And they're flipping. They're not voting Democrat anymore. And of course,
democracy, guys, pure democracy, it's the most evil form of government there is, because pure democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what to have for dinner. That's pure democracy. We live in a constitutional representative republic. And back in the day, that meant that both sides had to follow the rules. Of course, today there are no rules. It's the United States has become the Outback restaurant. No rules, just right.
Well, that's where we're heading. And if we become lawless, like Venezuela and like many other countries, it's over. And that's where they're taking us. Look at the crime rate.
Argentina, another prime example, by the way.
Exactly. Argentina, Venezuela, Cuba. you know, and
Cuba used to be the vacation paradise of the entire world.
it was.
That's where all the rich people went to have a good time. And then they got communism. Utterly
my father
destroyed it.
used to tell me, my dad, when he was young, he used to go to Cuba, in Venezuela all the time because it was a vacation place. It was a lot of fun. And look at it right now.
They had great music, great hotels, good food, and the people were free.
People were free and fun. And let me tell you, Latinos were fun people. But add freedom to that, and you cannot imagine how much fun we are. So that's something that the Latinos are finally seeing. And I'm hoping, you know, between everything that is going, plus the Latinos voting Republicans, this is the time to unseat Sheila Jackson Lee. And our city needs it. Because the crime, can you believe?
Our country needs it.
Our country.
But yes.
But look at our city, number one in crime. We came above Chicago. Where are we heading?
Of course, I should mention Sheila Jackson Lee has done one good thing here in Houston. The Sheila Jackson Lee COVID ward at the hospital. They are actually treating people down there with ivermectin and HCQ.
Ah, okay.
And so if you get the COVID and you're in Houston, you want to be in the Sheila Jackson Lee COVID unit because you're actually going to get treated there, whereas most hospitals have to follow Dr. Fauci's CDC protocols, which are to kill you.
To kill you. Well, let me tell you, because in 27 years, there is no one law with her name on it. That's a reality. So she's in what?
So what is she doing? Yeah, she's running through people like most people run through underwear.
And a millionaire.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's time that we get a representative that is going to work for our people. And I understand that clearly because I'm telling you, I'm scared, I'm afraid. And I always say, I decided to do this because I know, like I said, I'm come from the future. I know how it's going to end. Am I going to allow it to end like that? I have two choices. Sit in my house, wait for somebody, the government, to come to my door and tell me my house is no longer mine, or I can go out and fight.
You guys think that can't happen? Let me tell you, they thought it couldn't happen in Argentina and Venezuela.
And Cuba.
And Cuba.
Or they come to your door and say, well, now these two families from now on are going to live in your house. And they're here to stay. And you can say nothing about it. That's communism.
Yes, you just have to hope that you can come to some meeting of the minds and live together peacefully. But folks, that could happen here. It's going to happen here if you don't do your part. And that's why you need to help support Carmen Montiel. And right here, for those of you on YouTube, right there's the link. Click on it. And as you already found out, even if you're not in the state of Texas, you can make phone calls for Carmen Montiel. And, and for those of you that have the means to do so, I mean, $100 here, $100 there adds up to some real money. So you might want to consider making some real donations on that. But Carmen, I've known you for several years,
yes.
and I've always been impressed by you. I mean, I think this is the third time you've been on my show.
About it, and I always enjoy being in your show, and we've seen each other quite some time. We were at the Bernie.
Yeah, at the Bernie rally,
and we were at when the doctors and nurses were protesting about the mandate of
that's
vaccine.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah, we were there. Yeah,
we were all.
That's a little more recent.
Yes, that was more recent. So I'm always out there fighting the fight.
Well, you are. Yeah, you're a street fighter. You don't just sit up there in your apartment and wait for things to happen. You get out and do things for people. You are already exemplifying what it means to be a representative of the people, Carmen Montiel.
And that's what, and I've been done it. All my life, I work in charity. When I was Miss Venezuela, I was the only one, and actually still to this day, the only Miss Venezuela that have created a foundation to work for others. And I did it for pediatric children. So my life is always been about helping others. And I've been involved in charity, and then I was involved in the healthcare business. I'm a realtor now, helping people get homes, and it's the greatest satisfaction when somebody buy their first home ever.
There are few things that are more enjoyable than buying your first home.
Oh, it brings me to tears.
Because home ownership has always been one of the foundational things of being an American. Is the fact that here we do still have a middle class, and even people in the lower middle class can own a home in America.
And own the home. And, I'm also...
Of course, in Texas, you can't own your home. The state owns your home, and they let you live in it as long as you pay the rent.
As long as you pay the property taxes.
Yes, and long after your home is paid for, the property taxes will be maybe double what your house payment used to be, but it'll never stop.
It'll never stop.
Which is why we need to do some... we got some house cleaning to do here in Texas, too, but
exactly,
that's another show, and I'm not gonna do that here right now. But Carmen Montiel, I appreciate it because of what you stood for, and you've been there, and you don't need to run for Congress. I mean, you've got a life.
I got a life. I have 3 children. My girls are 25 and 23. My oldest is already working and everything. My second one is working, but she's applying. Well, she applied for law school. She's getting the answers. She already got a very good yes with scholarship and everything, but she's waiting for more. I have a 17-year-old, my son, that will graduate next year. He's a junior, and I have a business, and I'm a real. I'm also an investor in real estate. I have my properties, so I'm busy, but I'm worried about not only us. I'm worried about the future of our children, because it's just if we do nothing, it's just gonna be worse for them. And they're already being trained.
And they didn't get a vote, by the way.
And they didn't get a vote. In these last 2 years, they've been trained to be obedient. And I'm very
That's what
worried.
the whole mask thing is about, guys. It's the Muslims learned that back in the 1500s, that if you force your slaves to wear masks, it demotivates them. It devalues them. It causes them to become submissive. And so just in case you're wondering where the mask thing, because anybody with a brain, or certainly anybody that's ever studied microbiology, knows that a paper mask or even a cloth mask cannot possibly protect you from a virus. That's just how evil this whole thing is.
It is. So our children, that already been trained to that. So we as parents needs to explain to them that this is wrong, that sadly they have to put up with it. My son goes to private school. He's still forced to wear a mask because Abbott forgot.
I think I changed private schools.
Well, he has two more years, and there is another issue there that I talked to you off the mics. But Abbott forgot to address private entities when he released that executive order. It was only about public schools. It was only, and he said, how about private entities? He should have said, whoever wants to wear it, perfect. Whoever was not to wear it. So, but they still forcing the kids. So in this school. So I'm telling you, I'm very worried, so that's why I have to work in my house with my kids, explaining, and I'm also doing it by example. They see their mother out there fighting and changing my life, by going to Congress. And for me, and I always tell them, this is about you. I'm 57 years old. They have a whole life ahead of them.
You're very well preserved, young lady.
Thank you.
You don't look your age. But I have relatives that teach in private school, and they don't have. They have made it entirely voluntary. If you want to wear one, wear one. If you don't want to wear one, don't wear one.
Yeah, no, that's not the issue we have here. No.
Well, that's very sad.
And I have sent many emails.
This is very destructive for our young people.
It is.
And that's why my hashtag Abolish Public School exists, because public school system has done more to destroy America than even Susan Rice and Valerie Jarrett.
Well, let me tell you, there people are realizing more and more people are withdrawing their kids. They're doing homeschooling. And then there is the question, why, if we're not using the schools, do we have to pay property taxes? If the schools are not going to be doing what the parents going to be working towards the parents' interests, why are you going to take your children to school, even if it is private? This is being a big issue for me. But also, you see what is happening in Virginia, that the governor said no more mask mandates, and the school district still imposing, which is to tell you people, local elections are really good very important.
He would void that mandate and say, look, anyone that goes against the mask release, I guess you'd call it, we're going to call you on the carpet.
Well, I don't know. They were dealing with that issue. Apparently started today, and they're in the Supreme Court already in Virginia, and the Virginia Supreme Court dealing with this issue.
Well, I'm very happy with, and I'm encouraged by what happened in Virginia. I'm especially encouraged by Winsome Sears, their new lieutenant governor.
Oh, he's fighting the fight.
Yeah,
yes.
she and she's the first black woman.
The Lieutenant Governor, but the Attorney General, he's in the Supreme Court, Virginia Supreme Court today.
Well, that is good news. I hope that comes out well. Yes, Phyllis, up in Canada. Have you heard about that? What's going on in Canada, Carmen Montiel?
That's a great. Finally, the Canadians, woke up, because I was like, how these people's going to happen? But did you see?
I was surprised.
I was surprised, but did you see yesterday that apparently the mayor of Ottawa called the tow trucks, tow trucks. To tow them, and they said we all have COVID.
We all got the COVID. We're all quarantined here.
So actually, they're all programmed.
There you are, Phyllis. Phyllis wanted to know if I heard about that. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I tell people, I said, we were born to be free.
We were. That's what God gave us. Liberty comes from God. Our lives come from God. Our laws come from God. Not government. We do not serve the government.
Not at all. And in this country, the pursuit of happiness is, because we're free, we can then pursue our happiness. But the way it's been in the last 2 years is an imposition of communism and tyranny. But we are more, and we are the free people. And we need to exert and work on our freedom and make the government understand that this is not right. And we need to put our foot down and fight for this and for our freedom. Because let me tell you, what happens is they take one freedom away, they will never give it back. They go a step further and a step further. And if we don't stop this, and actually we backtrack on this, then we have no future. And they already did this to our children. Our children will never understand the freedom we grew up in.
No, because they've had that stolen from them.
And so this is already normal for them. They can accept it. And we need to stop this and make them understand that this is not right.
Well, no one ever submitted their way out of tyranny.
No.
You can't submit your way out of tyranny. You had to fight.
To fight it.
To quote Julie, fight the power. I think it was Julie that said that earlier. Hey, Venus, nice to see you. Good text in there. This is a very, very serious problem. And so now I got to ask you some hard questions. You're my friend. I've known you for a long time. But hard questions. What are you going to do about the border when you get to Congress, Carmen Montiel? And by the way, I want you to understand, I talked to another guy here, and he said that he's kind of analyzed the situation. He's very politically savvy. And he said he thinks you got a good shot this time at beating Sheila Jackson Lee.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what's the first thing you're going to do?
Close the border. Close 3,000 troops to Europe today. Joe Biden authorized, and the Pentagon already announced it. Those 3,000 troops we need at the border.
Yeah, that's where they should be.
That's where they should be.
Defend our border instead of the Ukraine border.
If we don't have borders, we don't have a nation. People needs to understand this.
Borders, language, and culture. Tip of the hat to my friend Michael Savage.
The Bible talks about nations. The Bible
never and it talks about borders too. It says don't move the landmarks.
So what it will do about the border? Close it, because that's one of the many ingredients in the race of crime.
Well, even in the Bible, it talks about having proper credentials to live in a given area. Because at the wedding supper, friend, how is it that you got in here without wedding clothes?
Exactly. So, but we should not show an identity or an ID or any type of document to go to vote. But anybody can come across the border.
What the heck is wrong with that?
So they contradict.
Of course, you can't get on an airline. You can't rent a hotel room. You can't buy Sudafed in the drugstore unless you have an ID.
Exactly.
But
we have to show a vaccine passport.
Yes.
But these people can come across the border with vaccination, without a test of COVID, without identification.
And they're bringing us diseases in America that we eradicated decades ago. Tuberculosis.
That we're facing now. Polio.
They got diseases now that I can't even pronounce.
Exactly.
And, and they're bringing them here. And not only are they bringing them here, folks, but thanks to Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice, as soon as these people get across the border, our National Guard, which is acting as a concierge service, thank you, Greg Abbott, are directing them to the proper place so they can get on an airplane and get a large sum of cash and a credit card, and then they fly them anywhere in the United States they just want to go. And it's all
I went to
free.
the border. I went to the border, and I went to one entry point. One of many.
Did you see Greg Abbott's new border wall down there while you were there?
No.
Because I've heard him talk about it.
There are parts where there are border, the wall, but they have a door and it's open. But usually they don't enter through there. So I went to one entry point. One. There is many.
There are many.
20 minutes. 90 people plus children. 20 minutes. Do you understand how bad this is?
90 people came across the border in 20 minutes.
In 20 minutes. And the Border Patrol comes just to check the name, not to arrest them, to check the name. They give them masks, because of course they come without masks. They write their names, and then a border bus comes, fill the bus, and they have one after the other, because after an hour, we were already like close.
The buses are full. You got to bring in a new bus.
A new bus. They taken to a place where they, for their charity, they decide who they're going to return, which is a minority. And then they take into halfway houses where they stay a couple of days. That's when they finally check them for COVID. But when they go to the halfway house, is because from there, they're going to be sent to whatever they want in United States, like you say, with a credit card, with money, with our tax money.
On military planes and on chartered Airbuses that are paid for with your tax dollars.
With our tax money.
And Greg Abbott is doing this with full knowledge. He has taken the National Guard. He bragged to you about putting the National Guard down there. He bragged about, building his border wall. But the truth is, he's using the National Guard as a concierge service for illegal aliens. Remember that when it's time to vote for governor. Now, the primary election is coming up on February the 14th.
I'm unopposed.
That was my next question. Okay,
I'm
good.
unopposed. And so, but still need some votes.
Well, you got to have some help. Running for Congress is
it's not. I still need some
deal.
votes on March 1st, but I'm unopposed. That means that I'm already all the way to November 8th to face Sheila Jackson Lee, who originally had 4 opponents, and then she had 2, and now she has nobody.
Well, you guys need to sign up. And you need to help, because we've got to get somebody like this. And Carmen Montiel, really, you've been a patriot as long as I've known you. The first time I ever met you was at an event, a protest event. You weren't there to be the headliner. You were there to stand with the people.
Oh no, I'm with my people, fighting the fight together, because people need to understand that together we can do this. That we are a force when we are together. That the leftist wants to separate us, because remember, that's how they conquer, if they separate us. So we need to be together. So that's whenever they call me to do something, I'm there, like one more part of the team, because we need to fight this fight together. We cannot do it alone. We cannot do it if we're fighting with each other. People needs to understand that, especially as conservative, we need to be fighting this fight together. And I know in the spectrum of conservatism, there are more to the right, middle to the middle, but right now we need to get unified and push for all of us to win in Congress, in the Senate, and locally, so we can rescue our country, because we are losing. If you have no notice, because we are losing our country, and this is it. If United States goes, the world will be a world of slaves in the hands of the communists that are going to live rich and comfortable, because that's what communism is about. It's about entitlement for the very few.
Yes. Yeah, because some people are more equal than others. If you read Animal Farm, and if you haven't read that, well, it's a nice children's tale for adults. So you should probably get that and read it. And read it to your kids. Your kids may not completely understand it, but hopefully you will, in spite of your public school education. So that being said, Carmen Montiel, I'm glad that I know you. I'm glad you're running against She-Jack. She certainly needs to be retired. And the good news is, guys, you don't need to worry about She-Jack. not only is she already a multimillionaire, but when she retires, she's going to get like $100,000 a year for the rest of her life in tax-free money. So you don't need to worry about She-Jack. She's going to be just fine.
Oh, and she gets her pension.
Yeah. So let's help her retire. Here is the retirement plan, and that is Carmen Montiel. Let me give you the last word, Carmen.
Well, please go out. This year is very important. This year, we need to take back the House, take back the Senate.
Well, I would dare say it's the last hurrah if we don't do it.
If we don't do it now, so get active in your neighborhood, in your precinct, in your city, in your state. Go donate or go work. Go knock at doors, make calls, whatever is needed for you. We need to rescue our cities, our counties, our government, our federal government, because I don't think we can survive another 2 years of what we are going through right now. And it's going to get worse and worse. And I'm telling you, like I told you, I come from the future. I know it's going to get worse if we don't do something about it. There is no way back. And all these people that just came through the border, and we are almost hitting the 3 million mark right now, we're not going to be able to take them back. The damage is already done. So we need to rescue our country and then go on an education program and teach those people the right way, how and why this is a republic.
One last time, your website.
CarmenForCongress.com. For Congress, F-O-R. CarmenForCongress.com. You can read what I'm stand for there. You can donate and you can sign up to volunteer for my campaign. Thank you.
All right, Carmen Montiel. Guys, thank you very much. That's going to do it for the show today. God willing, we'll be back on here tomorrow about the same time, same place.
Like the sounds of cannons on the horizon, please return with me to the amazing Doc Green Show, because I like things that go kaboom.